Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Deltascape version 1.0. This is the first encounter in the brand new raid made available by patch 4.01 in Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood. At first, this may seem like the type of fight you can bring an Alte to. And you might be right. However, things can get pretty scaly if you ignore those classical elements of raiding. But fear not. My name is Ms. Tech and I'll be your raid guide. Wormtail will do mild to moderate damage on the boss's primary target. Flame will do mild to moderate raid-wide damage and spawn a pattern of orbs around the room. Players will need to move away from these orbs as they will eventually explode for high damage and place a vulnerability up debuff on any player's hit. Roar will do more raid-wide damage, and healers will need to be ready to heal through it, paying particular attention to any players with high stacks of Vuln up. When the boss flies to one side of the platform and begins to cast Breathwing, he will eventually push all of the balls of fire and players out of their current positions away from him. The balls of fire will explode shortly after, and players will need to be pre-positioned during this breath to avoid getting hit. The easiest way to do this is to run to the side of the platform the boss is breathing from, and wait for the balls to be pushed away and explode. Twin bolts will target the main tank and whomever is closest to them for moderate damage. To handle this, the off-tank can stay nearby to ensure they're targeted for this attack over a random squishy melee or healer. Clamp is a large frontal column attack on the primary target. Avoid this as necessary. Eventually, the boss will begin to freeze the platform and target players for Levin Bolt. Players should pre-position to ensure that they don't have to move before the thin ice appears and causes them to slide around with their Levin Bolts. Immediately after, Blaze will mark up a random player with this stack up marker. The ice will disappear right before Blaze hits, allowing players a few seconds to group up. But I would recommend that the affected player tries to slide into the center of the room as much as possible, to minimize the distance players may have to run to stack in. When the boss moves into the middle and casts the classical elements, players will need to be ready to handle a number of these mechanics at once. Balls of fire will spawn in a pattern, and thin ice will begin to form. The boss will also cast Downburst, which will knock back all players and the balls of fire to the edge of the platform. Downburst creates this hard-to-see tornado in the center of the platform, and players need to avoid it or they will die. Immediately after, players will be marked for Levin Bolt. To handle all of this, players can slide to the center after the knockback to first avoid the exploding balls of fire. Then they can either slide or separate apart back to the outer edge to avoid overlapping Levin Bolt once the ice disappears. At this point, the mechanics will repeat with increased difficulty. Two patterns of balls of fire can spawn in succession and will explode in the same order that they spawn in. Keep this in mind as you pre-position for Breathwing. Charybdis will bring all players' HP down to single digits. Healers will need to top everyone off before the next roar cast immediately after to avoid death. The next classical elements combo will spawn two sets of balls of fire, first on the outer edge and then a clump in the middle. The boss will also cast Downburst. To avoid excess stacks, players should stand in the center to avoid the outer explosions and try to position themselves to be pushed back in between the center balls. Since you're on thin ice and the balls will explode almost immediately after the pushback, it'll be very difficult to adjust if you're not already in a safe spot. Remember to stack in for Blaze, which will happen as soon as thin ice dissipates. The next combo is a bit easier to handle. Balls of fire will spawn in the center. Thin ice will appear and the boss casts Downburst. After players and balls are pushed to the edge by Downburst, they can slide into the center to safety. Levin Bolt markers will appear, and after balls explode and the thin ice dissipates, players can spread to avoid overlap. Rinse and repeat until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head into Deltascape version 2.0. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.